G'day.
Hi, Hayden. How are you?
Pretty good. Ready to make some professional audio.
We are looking at Scientology today on Flightless Bird.
Yep, I've heard about it.
Yeah, what do you think of Scientology? I know in New Zealand we have Scientology. It's not particularly big.
Well, can I just first of all commend you on once again following Louis Theroux into a topic? Are you just going to meld with him one day? Are you going to kind of get together and like let your skins fuse?
I feel I need to jump in because a lot of Americans madly don't know who Louis Theroux is. He's my British counterpart. He was doing what I do much better and a long time before I was. And he made an entire documentary about Scientology. So yes, I am merely following, as per usual, in his footsteps.
Okay. Well, I'll stop negging you. The first thing that I think about when I think about Scientology is how on like New Year's Eve and various times you would neg me when I was still like sympathetic to Christianity, but maybe not really into it as much. But you would say it's just the same as any other religion. It's just newer. You know, they've started these legends and it's sort of grown out of that. And it's just that we can see the origins of it that makes it less mystical and more stupid. Yes. And I've probably grown quite a bit more sympathetic. Like, I hate to say this, but I think you might have been slightly onto something there.
Wow.
And then you say, oh no, but they do wild stuff, like you just follow people around LA and stalk them and imprison them and stuff. But when you think about the early Christian church, they weren't up to 100% nice stuff. They were sort of burning Catholics in England and burning people lots of places. So like lots of religions have got up to bad stuff. This all sounds like I'm pro-Scientology. I'm quite anti-Scientology.
Do you think Scientology is a religion or a cult?
Oh, it's right on the border, but it's sort of like if a cult endures enough, then it becomes a religion, right? The early Christians were cultish. They got fed to the lions and stuff for being weird. So yeah, I'd say cult for sure, and it has lots of culty aspects in that it has the mind control and all that sort of stuff, and they're like a parody of religion to show us how silly it is. They're just like, we're going to start a new religion. It's almost like a sketch that someone has made up.
I'm David Farrier, a New Zealander accidentally marooned in America, and I want to figure out what makes this country tick. And what Hayden was saying just now about Scientology being a parody of religion, he's sort of right. L. Ron Hubbard, the creator of Scientology, is quoted as saying, if a man really wants to make $1 million, the best way would be to start his own religion. And off he went. Now, ever since we started this podcast, I've wanted to do an episode on Scientology. Put simply, in my mind, it's one of the most American things of American things. A religion dreamt up by an American for Americans, paid for by, in part, the American taxpayer, and exported in all its horrible glory to the rest of the planet. In New Zealand, before I got stranded here in America, I lived about a 10-minute walk from New Zealand's main church of Scientology. It was in this really grand old building, but in New Zealand it struggled. New Zealanders can be a really cynical bunch, and from what I could tell, the New Zealand church was mostly just an empty building staffed by members they had flown in from Australia. Now here I am in America, and again, weirdly, I find myself living about 10 minutes from a giant church of Scientology. This one is doing a lot better than the one in New Zealand, or at least I assume it is. In the giant blue building, the one I know from watching Going Clear, The Prison of Belief, the amazing, terrifying documentary made about the cult 10 years ago. Cult? Did I say cult? Church! They call it a church here in America. And with all that buzzing around in my head, I figured it's time to do, finally, an episode on Scientology. So get out your copy of Dianetics, get hooked up to that e-meter, and prepare to ascend the bridge to total freedom, because this is the Scientology episode.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
touchdown in America. I'm a flightless bird, touchdown in America.
Rob, I just want to check at the top, because I've never raised this with you.
Am I Scientologist?
Are you a Scientologist? Because you're not?
No, I'm not.
Because one thing I've noticed, and I forget about this, like LA, where we are right now, this is the place where this religion is doing the best. And people are kind of, they don't announce it necessarily, and so I thought I'd better check.
No, it almost seems like it's something maybe people are ashamed of.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. I've been in situations where I've found out people I've known for 10 years were Scientologists.
I've been here for about 4 years on this sort of leg of my life, and I've had 2 instances where I found out from other people that people I know are Scientologists. And I think that's it's kind of fascinating.
Yeah. Before moving to LA or coming to LA, what was your history with it? It wasn't in Chicago. I didn't really know anything about it until the South Park episode.
Okay, so I remember the South Park episode in New Zealand. We were obsessed with South Park, and suddenly there was this episode about primarily like Xenu, right?
Tom Cruise.
Yeah, basically, I think that South Park episode did this amazing thing, and South Park used to do this a lot, and probably still does, where they just completely break open this topic that no one had really thought about. And if I recall correctly, and it's been about probably 30 years since I watched it, it was basically looking at the backstory about Scientology that no one was really talking about at the time.
It was examining like what they actually believe as
the belief system,
the religious aspect, which to me, like what seems so scary, I'm going to use the word scary
go for it,
is the like organization of it and less the belief system, which is like an interesting thing to have this discussion about a religion, because I don't think either of us want to belittle someone's beliefs.
No, believe what you believe if it doesn't damage other people.
But yeah, to that point, it seems like there's a lot of that damaging that
Absolutely
comes out of it.
And we're not the first ones to tread this path. Like I would say, if you want a good like explainer on the dangers of Scientology, Going Clear, the documentary, is a really good place to start, based on the book of the same name. That's really incredible. Louis Theroux, my British counterpart, did, I think his Scientology doc was called My Scientology Movie, and that's a really fascinating take on some of the sort of abusive systems within the church of Scientology. So those are 2 other good like resources.
Right. Which, I mean, I have always found it interesting. It's not like the Catholic Church. Like, it's also known for having a lot of corruption and covering up shit. And,
totally. They got great at that.
And like, it's not about the actual beliefs always. Like, I think we're on the same page where we think people can get a lot out of religion.
Mm-hmm.
And there are positive sides to it.
Yeah, 100%. That stat I always come back to, as far as charities and work in the community, a lot of that is still being driven by traditional Christian churches.
Yeah.
Like they're the ones out there doing soup kitchens and helping people. And that's something I always try not to forget.
Yeah, it just seems a little weird that because this religion is newer.
Well, that's what I always touched on, like, and what Hayden was talking about, because I knew Hayden when he was still a Christian, I guess, and sort of becoming more agnostic, I suppose. And I'd always give him shit because I'd be like, the only reason that differs between what you believe in Scientology is it's newer. Like, it's so easy to mock because the origin story, you can see it. Like, L. Ron Hubbard is quoted as talking about how great it would be to make $1 million, you know, and I think that's what makes Scientology so funny. If Scientology sticks around, and I think it probably won't, because I think it's failing at the moment, in 2,000 years, it'll just be as established. It would be just as established as Christianity is now.
What's what I mean? Like, if had it been founded 600 years ago or whenever.
How is a talking snake in the Garden of Eden any more sort of wacky than Xenu and souls being exploded out of volcanoes?
Yes, that has kind of always been my curiosity with it. Really, like, it's another religion that people believe something else, but the fact that it's just newer, it doesn't give it credibility, is a funny...
Yeah. No, it's a fun thing to think about, right?
Bit, yeah.
So my first encounter was that South Park episode when I was probably 13 or 14. And then I got very curious about it in New Zealand. I joined the church for a month to write about it back when I was doing journalism in New Zealand.
There is a New Zealand chapter?
We have Scientology in New Zealand.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have this big, grand building. I lived down the road from it, but we didn't have many members. So it was like, it
You're
looked
saying
cool.
we, David.
I'm
you?
still-
I didn't
I'm s-
ask you. Are you a Scientologist, David?
I was for a month, I was. No longer.
You joined to write about it, not... Or you were interested in the religion?
Not at all.
You were a believer in
I know. I knew it was
the
bullshit.
religion.
So I paid them. I think it was about $250 just to get an initial course paper. And that meant I could turn up to the building. I could go there. And other New Zealanders who were studying these papers could do it. I went like twice because it was like friggin' weird. But I did the whole e-meter thing where you get audited. You grab onto this device. You talk through some trauma in your life. You've got the person auditing you, taking notes and taking you through those experiences. So yeah, I joined it. And look, honestly, not that glamorous. It was basically in New Zealand, this very empty building, very unglamorous. I was annoyed I paid them money and I got some of their like leaflets and course books and met some. You know, my main takeaway is that the people at that early level that were bought into the church, they were just people looking for answers. I felt sorry for them. They were trying to get answers in life. They'd paid money and they just wanted to make their lives better. I wasn't hanging out with Tom Cruise in there. You know, there wasn't some like crazy like ritual going on. It was just kind of sad.
Yeah, and now cut to today. You live in the middle. Like it's crazy if you don't know.
In the doc, I go and visit the main kind of spaces that Scientology exists in here.
They're all really close to us in Los Feliz. Like
so close.
There's the production campus thing that's right by the Vista.
Yeah, basically a TV studio where they make all their videos and propaganda.
The Celebrity Center, which is by UCP.
Very fancy.
And then they have a chapter that's across the street from Little Dom's.
Which is very funny. I didn't know about that until you told me about it.
I had no idea until like a month ago. I thought it was apartment buildings or a hotel.
Yeah.
And then like behind bushes, there was a sign and we were going to eat over there. And
like,
I
holy shit.
It's like, what is this? And was shocked to find out that was a church. And then, of course, Big Blue.
Old hospital, a very surreal color blue. Like,
It's
I
crazy.
think it's beautiful. I look at it and I think that is an amazing building. Very eye-catching. It's what you see on any like doc about Scientology. It's Big Blue.
It's crazy how grand it is. When we first moved over to this neighborhood, Calvin's daycare we'd have to drive by that every morning when I would drop him off.
Yeah.
And there would be, so I think the church was also buying up buildings all around there and they paint them blue. And right across the street from his daycare, there was a bus stop that just had like 150 people all dressed in the same clothes, waiting to catch a bus to take them, I think, to Big Blue. But it was just this like crazy, like it's not as in your face in LA as you would think. You can't always tell like, oh, that's a Scientologist.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They blend in.
But there was like a time in the morning that it was just like clearly this horde of Scientologists, which otherwise are a little more hidden.
Yeah, when you see them in a group, you're like, oh, there you all are.
Yeah.
And you're off to go into that building to do whatever you do. Coursework, give money.
And there's so much like secrecy around it, it feels like. It's one thing that it's just like this religion that is around the city and prominent here, but it's also because they probably didn't let you in there.
Spoiler alert, they did not let me in there.
No.
Has anyone ever tried to get you to go along? Have you ever had a friend that's been like, come along to this thing?
No, I mean, that's what's the weird thing of like, for the friends that I have, like, given how much it feels like the organization is a network for people, which is my interpretation of it. I don't know if that's true or not.
I think on board. I think that's why it does so well in LA. It's like an old boys club. essentially. It's just a bunch of networked people in the industry who can all help each other out. Tom Cruise being at the top of that, you know? And that's an ongoing fight I have. I love Tom Cruise. I've seen every Mission Impossible movie. I think he's an amazing actor. But there is this thing if ever I post about Mission Impossible or get excited, inevitably someone will say, and it's valid, that dude is in cults and he knows everything and he's high up. Let's not support him.
The weird thing is he's not out like proselytizing though, like most people are in a religion. I have friends that have done movies with Tom Cruise and know him well, and I've asked them, like,
does he bring it up?
Has he tried to pitch you this? And which made me feel better that my friend didn't try to get me.
Yeah, totally.
And it was no. Like, it's not like the set of his movies, there's like a pamphlets section
on
where
Dianetics.
They're doing
the fascinating
coursework.
thing is, I thought about this and I did a bit of a YouTube deep dive, and the interesting thing with Tom Cruise is he used to in interviews talk about Scientology all the time. He used to preach it. He would bring it out publicly and talk about it. At some point, and I'm not sure exactly when this was, but it was longer than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
He just stopped talking about it.
Play South Park.
It probably was. Just shut it down. And, you know, he just doesn't talk about it. So there was a very clear point where obviously the church's PR people went, this isn't a positive thing to be bringing it up. Talking about it now is going to get us mocked. People aren't taking you seriously. So just like, shut up. And he has.
It's really weird, the parallels between Tom Cruise and Scientology and Mel Gibson and Christianity. But I think he's done some like racist stuff and
horrific.
And
yeah,
like
I
that.
remember that drunken, like really anti-Semitic, like Jewish rant he went on. Like he's not a great guy.
But they're both like
these figureheads,
these like giant celebrities.
Yeah.
That
have this
pushed
other
heavily into these religions at some point.
Completely.
And like both of those, they seem to have different trajectories.
I wonder if have they ever been in a movie together, Mel Gibson and Tom Cruise? I feel like they haven't.
Probably not.
I'd love to see them in a room together. That would be kind of amazing.
We get them to debate religion.
Oh my God, I would listen to that podcast.
I would too.
Those two, Catholicism or Scientology. Like, what is the correct path? I want to do some boring admin quickly.
Yes.
Before I forget, we've got live shows coming up in Denver and Chicago.
July 3rd in Denver at Cervantes Masterpiece Ballroom.
What a beautiful name.
And July 10th in my hometown, Chicago at Park West.
Ticket details at flightlessbirdpod.com. We'd love to see you there. And I know I say this a lot, but if you have any great insights into those cities or little amazing things you want us to look into, please email me, flightlessbirdchat@gmail.com. Would love to hear from you. And if you have any beautiful taxidermy that you know, any taxidermists.
You know what we should do? There was this period in Chicago where they were putting these big porcelain cows everywhere.
We had that in New Zealand.
Yeah. They were doing that in Chicago. They were all over. That? They were themed cows.
Yeah.
If anyone has a cow that they can bring to Park West for
that would be amazing. Also, I need to look into this now. I'm sure it's like very beautiful, worthy art, probably for an amazing cause. We had that in New Zealand for a while, the painted cow.
I don't know if it was pre-social media.
It wasn't there for the viral hit.
I mean, it might have been, where it was like, go to all these cows and get your picture in front of them, but not posting them on Instagram because Instagram wasn't a big thing yet.
I feel like I need to look into this now and find out what the hell it was, because now I remember that very specifically. So yeah, I hope to see you at those live shows. And as always, any feedback for this episode, flightlessbirdchat@gmail.com. And if you're a Scientologist and you want to talk to us about this episode as well, I would love to hear from you. Should we get into the doc?
Let's do it.
Chapter 1. Celine makes a friend.
Hello, my darling Celine. Call me as soon as you can.
This is a voicemail my friend Celine got from an older woman she'd met in LA a few weeks earlier. Where did you meet this woman?
I was actually going to get coffee with my neighbor, and we were driving, and I see a sign that says yard sale, and there's a parking right in front, so we're like, let's pull over. We go to the yard sale. She's very interested in us. She's talking to me the whole time. She's like, oh, you're so beautiful. You're so sweet.
At the time, Celine was going through some rough relationship stuff. She'd really been going through it. which is when this sweet older woman presented herself.
She's like, I'm just telling you the same things I would tell my daughter. And she pulls me into the house with her, and she has this book. There's a scale of faces with emotions. She's like, when you're happy, which one are you? And she says, I think you're this one, and it's the one that's the most happy. And she's like, but right now you're here, and it's the one that's the most sad. And I was like, yeah, I think you're right.
Celine liked this lady. I mean, you heard her voice. She's likable. She reminded me of my grandma or something.
I'm dying to talk to you. Sure, I'm glad you called.
The two women were playing phone tag because back at that yard sale, the woman had told Celine she wanted to help her.
She gives me a card, and she's I guess a massage therapist too, but she's like, I also do mental health clarity or something. She's like, just call me and we can just talk as like friends and I'll help you. And she's like, I'm going to do this for you for free. I'll give you therapy for free.
What a kind offer in LA.
And I'm like, that's insane. This is perfect timing for everything that I'm going through.
Look, Celine's smart. She survived some pretty crazy stuff in LA, but she had her guard down on this occasion. And this whole time, she noticed the woman wouldn't tell her what the book was called, the book with the faces. And then other things started to seem a bit weird too.
She wants to set me up with another girl as a friend. She's like, I think you'll really like this girl. I think she's going to do the therapy too. And then says that she had gotten 5 other girls that day.
That's a weird thing to hear.
Yeah, which I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean?
5 other girls? What?
I know. But then she's like, you're the best of them all, though. Like, none of them are like you, which I'm like, okay, thank God. Thank God I'm still special.
At what point did you clock that this was Scientology?
So I was like, if she's not going to tell me what this fucking book is, like, I'm going to dig deep into my memory.
Was it Dianetics? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and then it was a Ron L. Hubbard book. And then I was like, hold on. And then I Googled book with a sliding scale of faces, and it was another Ron L. Hubbard book. And I was like, oh, fuck.
The book was called The Emotional Tone Scale. It was released in 1994, and it's on Amazon for $5.
She's having her assistant message me. I was like, what kind of therapy is this? And he was like, hold on. And he stopped responding. But then a week later, he sent me this big email that had a big summary of like, what is Dianetics?
That email from the woman's so-called assistant confirmed what Celine already knew. Yes, this whole thing was just Scientology. She forwarded me the email the assistant had sent. It opened with a sort of diatribe against mainstream therapy. As you know, in our present society, psychology is the mainstream therapy in use. Psychology is a valuable tool for helping people. Countless people use it daily. However, psychology has limitations. The email went on. Dianetics took a different research path and pioneered some significant discoveries. The main breakthrough was the precise understanding of how emotional pain works and how to release it. The rest of the email is pretty funny when you know it's a cult writing it. We live in an era of incredible misinformation. Any meaningful field worth pursuing today has its fair share of misinformation. Many individuals have reported experiencing faster results with Dianetics compared to traditional psychology. The widespread lack of awareness about Dianetics is a direct result of persistent misinformation campaigns aimed at discrediting it. In this day and age, true knowledge is precious, but misinformation masquerading as knowledge can be pretty dangerous. You get the idea. I feel like Celine is probably like so many people that brush up against Scientology, that almost engage with it, but catch on and jump ship. Celine was actually the reason I decided to do this episode. I'd sort of forgotten about Scientology, even though it was right in front of me. Literally, I walk or drive past most days. So one day last month, I decided to curate my own little tour of Scientology, LA style. Chapter 2. My trip to Scientology. Okay, so it's early afternoon on a Monday. I've just parked up in Hollywood. It's loud, it's kind of smelly. Drove past some pretty iconic LA spots, the ArcLight Theatre, Amoeba Music, and I'm walking towards my first stop on this Scientology tour, which is something called the Museum of Psychiatry. And I think the subtitle is something like An Industry of Death, which is quite a weird thing to have sitting in the middle of Hollywood. So yeah, I guess we'll go inside and see what it's all about. The building is big, hard to miss. And as I walk in, I'm struck by the fact that I appear to be the only member of the public in here. In front of me, it's a big reception desk with 2 smiling Scientologists waiting to greet me. I'm holding my recording kit and big microphone in my hands. Hey, how are you?
Good. We're good. How are you doing?
Good. I'm from New Zealand. I'm making a podcast about American culture. So I'm just curious what this place is.
Well, that's a great question. We're a mental health watchdog organization, and we have a museum on psychiatry and psychiatric abuse.
Okay.
I'll have to hold your is that a microphone?
Recorder. Yeah.
A recorder. Yeah, we don't allow any filming or video inside.
Okay. It's just audio only? Is that okay if I it's just audio?
I'm not completely sure, but just to be safe, we can hold it.
In case you missed that, they said if I go on a tour of the museum, I can't take my recording gear inside.
We say that this is the other side of the textbook on mental health, as it takes you through the history of abuse.
How long have you guys been here for?
Well, the organization 1969, and the museum 2005. Oh, we're a working organization, you could say.
Okay.
So yeah, what we do is I'll invite you to sign in.
This is quite funny to me. At no point did they say, "We are Scientology." In fact, they bent over backwards not to say that. Instead, they're a working organization, whatever the heck that is. It reminds me a bit of Celine's situation, all that talk, but no mention of what they actually were.
Where are you from?
New Zealand.
Oh, right, okay.
Another woman comes in and takes my mic.
So yeah, if we can hold your
I can
equipment.
do this.
Okay.
And with that, my recording gear's gone. They do offer to take a photo of me in front of that sign, which I say, yes, of course. And then I'm ushered inside. I'm the only person in there as well. It takes about 10 minutes to walk through. I emerge, I get my recording gear back, I exit, and I start recording again. The 2 people at the front desk, overly friendly, very, very friendly, and wouldn't stop talking. So she made me turn my audio recorder off and hand it over to her for safekeeping, wouldn't let me keep it with me. I popped the memory card before I handed it over, because I didn't particularly want them having that. And yeah, the inside of it was something. When I pressed her on what organization she worked for, she certainly didn't say Scientology. Instead, she said the Citizens Commission on Human Rights, which certainly doesn't sound like Scientology. So I found that really interesting. So the Museum of Psychiatry, they're definitely not proudly Scientologists. They make out like they're something else entirely, this sort of generic organization, which I think is really fascinating. But yeah, if I could summarize, I would say the main message of the Museum of Psychiatry is that all meds are bad. They contributed from everything to Nazi Germany to various celebrity suicides. So yeah, another thing I found really interesting is that there were multiple times over my trip where they wanted to get my contact information, name and email address and physical address. For instance, when I went in, I had to log my visit. And then at the end, there was a survey and they wanted all of that information again. So yeah, big on getting contact details. All right, on to the next stop. Stay tuned for more Flightless Bird. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Support for Flightless Bird comes from Quince. Now, I'm not a big trends guy.
I can attest to that.
But look, I am big on clothes that feel good and that last, and that's why I keep going back to Quince. Their lightweight layers and high-quality staples have become my everyday essentials.
With the seasons changing right now, too, and all the travel we have coming up, updating our wardrobe so that we look nice for these live shows and aren't wearing the same thing that we've been wearing day after day.
Also, Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and use premium fabrics and finishes. I really like that. They also work directly with top artisans, and they cut out the middleman, so Quince gives you luxury pieces without the markups.
Yeah, it's pretty much half the cost of similar brands, which is our favorite part.
We use Quince, and you should too.
So stick to the staples that last with elevated essentials from Quince. Go to quince.com/bird for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/bird to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/bird. Support for Flightless Bird comes from Helix. Now, Helix has been with us for a long time now, and that's because when we started this podcast, they came on board as a sponsor. I got a Helix mattress, and I have been having great sleeps ever since. I love my Helix mattress. You know about this, Rob. I rant about it.
Yeah, you came to America with a terrible back, got your Helix mattress, and I feel like you've complained so much less about your back.
Oh, yeah, and I love complaining. Like, I really do. I really do appreciate this mattress. I got a Midnight Luxe. I went online. I took the quiz. I got matched with the type of mattress that would match my sleep preferences and my entire way of sleeping, which is back and side. And I've never looked back.
For our listeners, Helix Sleep is offering 20% off site-wide if they go to helixsleep.com/bird. That's helixsleep.com/bird for 20% off site-wide.
And yeah, make sure you enter our show name after checkout so they know that we sent you. helixsleep.com/bird. Okay, I've driven about 7 minutes down the road and I'm approaching the Scientology Celebrity Center. Sort of opposite the road from a little trendy line of stores and a Gelson's supermarket. I've always seen it there, sort of glimmering in the distance, but yeah, never gone inside. Spoiler alert, I would not go inside today either. As I walk down the street, it's hard to see inside. It's all black fence and shrubbery. There is music coming from inside. As you can hear, the Celebrity Centre is playing Barbra Streisand from speakers that are behind the fence pointing out towards the street. Oh, so that's kind of blasting from inside the garden, speakers outside through the fence. Not quite sure why. It's just to kind of grab your attention as you walk past, I don't know. And of course, there's a leaf blower in there. Of course, Scientologists blow leaves. As I walk past the leaf blower and around to one of the main gates, it's clear I'm not getting inside today. There's a big sign outside that says, Church of Scientology, Religious Services in Progress. So I guess that's why everything is locked at the moment. I wonder if that's what Memories was for, so I can't hear what's going on inside. There's a big gate, and you can't see through it because it's got some sort of temporary fake foliage up across the back of it. I can see some black boots under it. I guess they're security guards or church members or cult members, whatever you want to call them, hanging out. Because I'm here already, I take a walk around the block. I mean, it is a very grand building. You can see it popping up over the fence. Big, glorious old chateau-looking thing. And yeah, security cameras just everywhere on the block. So yeah, you're being watched the entire time. But also, I guess that is just modern life, not just Scientology. Although, holy heck, there are a lot of cameras. Opposite the Scientology Celebrity Center, there's just like a number of little apartments, nothing fancy, ordinary people living there. Talked to a guy who said, yeah, it's pretty weird living next door. He said, back in the day, it used to be a lot less secure, but there's no way now you can get on the grounds or see anything that's going on. If you do go on the grounds, you're escorted to specific areas. Yeah, he said it's a pretty interesting place to live next to. Back in my car, I set off for my final destination of my personal Scientology tour of LA, Big Blue. All right, so I'm standing on L. Ron Hubbard Way, which is allegedly the cleanest street in Los Angeles. I don't know if that's true or if someone just told me that as a joke, but it does look like a very clean street. There is also a banner outside that says, Curious, come in today. Open daily, 9 a.m. till 10 p.m., which is very welcoming. So I'm just going to walk in and say I'm making a podcast and see if anyone from the Church of Scientology can answer any questions. So this is the building that they call like Big Blue, I guess, because it's giant and blue. It looks very impressive. If you ever see photos of the Church of Scientology, I feel like this is the building that you see. It used to be an old hospital, and now it is a Church of Scientology. If you look at the Church of Scientology on Wikipedia, this building is what comes up. As in, this is the Church of Scientology. It's a church. And in my mind, churches are for the public. There's nothing to hide in a church. So why would they ever be weird about this? And why would they ever lock that sliding glass door on me? Because this is a church. Why would they do that? So the door is shut for some reason. I don't know, maybe it's because of the microphone. I look inside, the receptionist suddenly very busy at her computer, refusing to look at me. At the moment, they're just ignoring me. Not very welcoming. I guess, what am I wearing? I don't look threatening. I have pink shorts and a t-shirt. And Crocs on. And the microphone that I'm speaking into right now. Inside to the right, I see a huddle of staff. I might be projecting here, but one of them does look up and shoot me a really dirty look. And at this point, a man in a black uniform turns up on a bike. Hey, how are you? Yeah, I'm good. I'm David. I make a podcast about American culture called Flightless Bird. Okay. And I'm just wondering if someone from the church could talk to me about the church or, what you're doing here.
You're welcome to check online and contact the media relations guys.
Contact the media relations guys online?
If you go to Scientology.org.
Okay, Scientology.org.
Link on there, the email address. You're welcome to reach out to them that way.
Okay, cool. Do you guys give interviews often, or how common is it?
I'm not sure, honestly.
Not sure?
I don't deal with that aspect.
Okay.
I'm not totally sure on that.
All right.
But you're more than welcome to go on there and email them and get in touch with them.
Okay, email them there. But can't go inside with a microphone or recording device at all. Door locked. Okay. In short, I'm not allowed inside and have been urged to check out their website and contact their media team if I want to talk to them. Which, by the way, I did. I reached out to them to take part in this episode, to get their side of things, their ideas, and I never heard back. Crickets. I walk back through the car park, back onto a busy LA street. So yeah, I'm off the property now, but the security guard's still standing by the door, watching me. You do notice, again, all the cameras on the street around the building that are recording everything, which is, very security focused. The guy on the bike is now following me around, which is a bit weird. I do a full loop of the block and walk down the whole of L. Ron Hubbard Way, which has the big blue Scientology building on my left, and on my right, what looks like a lot of smaller private houses, all for Scientology. So walking down L. Ron Hubbard Way, there's a little cafe. That's nice. I wonder what they have. I might go inside and have a look. As I go to walk inside the cafe, the guy on the bike stops me. I hadn't even clocked he was there, let alone that close to me. All right, so as I tried to go into the cafe, I was approached by the man on the bike, who said his name was Dylan, and he said, I cannot use the cafe unless I am a practitioner of Scientology. So he said I should go to the website and have a look. He wanted my name. They always want your name, don't they? And I said, I'm David. Shook his hand, went on my way. So I'm now emerging on the other end of Ron L. Hubbard Way. No cafe treats for me. Yeah, and I would say since I arrived, there are now more security guards than when I got here. Just on every corner, looking at me as I walk along. And that was my mini tour of LA Scientology complete. It's strange just having all this so close to where I live. And say what you want about religion and church in general, I'm pretty skeptical about all of it. But Scientology is certainly the cagiest I've ever encountered. People, including myself, have been known to call them a cult. And today, I was kind of reminded why. Chapter 3. how they get you. I wanted to talk to someone who, like Celine, had been wooed by Scientology as an adult, but instead of running, had joined up. And so I found myself back outside Scientology HQ in LA, back outside Big Blue, across the street and up a bit so I didn't attract their attention. This time I'm here to meet Ben, not his real name, who joined the cult for a few years. Ben was originally from San Diego, but moved to Los Angeles in 2006 when he was 17. He had just dropped out of school and was, in his own words, searching. He had a friend who helped get him set up in LA, letting him stay at his parents' house, rent-free, and Ben started hanging out with his friends' friends.
I loved all these people. They were like, all of a sudden, were my best friends, and we did everything together. And so I just kind of became curious over the course of a year. You know, you sign up for these courses, you should check it out. And I was like, I'm okay, like I'm good. Church freaks me out, and groups of people coming together, paying to do shit freaks me out. But time goes on, these people are like, you know, they're not weird, they're my friends, and they're happy, and so let's check this out. And so I just eventually just started doing introductory courses.
Introductory courses at the Church of Scientology. How long are you doing it before I imagine you get a flicker of this is either quite expensive or this is weird?
To be honest with you, the whole time I'm doing it, I'm like, well, if this is so good, why the fuck does it cost so much money? Why do I have to keep paying? The whole basis of it is to help the world, to clear the world of the reactive mind. The reactive mind is the part of your mind that reacts to situations without thinking. So the thought behind it is like, if you fell on the ground when you were a kid and scraped your knee, and a car is driving by and maybe that car is playing a certain song, all those elements of that experience get stored in the reactive mind. And so if they come up in the future, it triggers the trauma. So like, say you're at a birthday party and that song that was playing in that car comes on, and all of a sudden your knee is feeling weird and you're wondering like, or you're like, I want to get out of here, and you don't know why. That's the idea of the reactive mind.
And am I right in thinking that's a lot of what auditing is, which is where you grab that sort of e-meter? It's going through bad experiences in your life and kind of like clearing them out, like an unusual form of therapy.
Yeah, it is. And a lot of it, it's so weird because a lot of it, I'm like, whoa, this really helped me. As far as auditing goes, yeah, the idea of auditing is to go through the whole of your reactive mind and smash all of those moments, which are called engrams.
Did you smash quite a few of yours?
I smashed a lot of engrams, yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, yeah.
And how much money do you reckon you sunk in?
I probably spent $50,000.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, this wasn't $1,000 or $5,000. This was a big hit.
A majority of that money was borrowed from a friend who had a lot of money.
Eventually, he didn't want to keep requesting money from that friend, even though that friend did have a lot of it. Things were getting weird. And for Ben, the nail in the coffin was when his girlfriend got involved. At first, it was his idea for her to go to the church. Then he saw how this idea was actually a bad idea.
But I had a girlfriend at the time who I was like, you know, you should get some auditing, like it might help with your anxiety.
You're trying to bring her in.
Yeah, I did get some relief from this. Maybe it could help. So I called them and I said, hey, I'm bringing my girlfriend down. She is very weary of Scientology, so please don't ask her for any money. She can sign up for some auditing on my account. Are we clear? And yes, that's fine. And I go down there, I wait in the car, girlfriend goes in, and like 30 minutes later, she comes out and she's like, where's my purse? And I'm like, why? And she's like, oh, I'm buying this thing. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What thing? She's like, this course I'm going to do, it's $3,000. And I'm like, no, get in the car. And I just fucking left. And I watched Going Clear that night. I was like, fuck this shit.
It's funny, I'd always wondered what happened if a Scientologist watched Going Clear, this documentary that just so clearly outlines why Scientology is cooked. I guess I had my answer of what happens. For Ben, this all happened almost 2 decades ago. He says looking up at Big Blue now is pretty surreal. Some of the friends that suggested he join, they're still in it.
And I have a lot of friends who are still involved, and I have a lot of empathy for them because a lot of them grew up in it, and it's a lifetime of brainwashing or whatever you want to call it. Their whole spiritual identity is wrapped up in this thing that teaches them to be afraid of anything else that might be helpful. And so I have a lot of empathy for that. There's a lot of people involved that really do want to help and think that they're helping, and that is fucked up because there's a lot of people involved that are in the business of making money and taking money from people. The thing is if you go against and you don't defend Scientology, you can be classified as a suppressive person and excommunicated or declared, as they call it. And then if you grew up in it, then that means your whole fucking family is against you.
From time to time, Ben says he still gets a call from Scientology, wanting to know if he's coming back. He's still in the database. Sometimes he answers, but he never returns.
It's fucking weird. It's a fucking cult. It's a huge cult. But at the same time, it's part of my experience here in LA. And like, it's fine now. You know, I get to say that, yeah, I've been in there. I saw what goes on in there. And like, I'm fine, you know, like I'm fine. I luckily didn't have the familial ties to it, which made it a lot easier for me to get out. Thank God, you know what I mean?
Chapter 4. Born This Way. So far, I'd met Ben and Celine who'd encountered Scientology later in life. But what happens when your introduction to Scientology comes early, like when you're a kid? Mike is a 48-year-old helicopter pilot with the US Army, who's recently hit 21 active years of service. He tells me he served in 5 combat zones, 2 in Iraq and 3 in Afghanistan, and is currently training new pilots. But before that, he had this whole other life as a Scientologist. He escaped when he was 27, back when he was a member of Scientology's Sea Org.
The Sea Org is almost like a group of the most dedicated Scientologists that sign the billion-year contracts.
You mentioned very casually a billion-year contract. What is that?
So this is Sea Org members, when they join the organization, they sign a contract, which this is not legally enforceable because of how absolutely crazy it is. But it's almost the same as a member of the clergy in another religion dedicating their life to service of the organization.
Mike was introduced to Scientology when he was 7 years old. Like most 7-year-olds, he didn't have much choice about anything in his life. And so when his mother got divorced from his dad and joined Scientology, well, Mike joined with her.
She thought she was getting into a church group that would be a good place to raise her son. And quickly what happened is I was separated from her. We lived separately most of the time. She ended up at their confidential base that's out in Gilman Hot Springs over on the other side of Riverside County, him at San Jacinto area. They have a huge film studio and their international bases out there. She was working there while I was basically living communally with other kids in LA County by myself all week long. And this was the same for about 80 other kids whose parents were also up at that secret base.
It's strange. I always just imagine Scientologists as adults. I suppose it's because the public faces are just that. John Travolta, Tom Cruise, Elizabeth Moss. But of course there are kids. That's when they can really get their hooks in.
The kids were referred to as cadets. We were being trained in Scientology as our main schooling. We weren't getting a normal education, and we're just studying Hubbard. And then they're trying to pretend we're like little military children, you know, not to be too over the top, but it probably was a lot like Hitler Youth in that you're being indoctrinated and trained from such a young age to do nothing but be a Sea Org member.
That was his life. His 8th birthday, his 9th birthday, before he eventually says he got to see a bit more of his mother.
That's what my life consisted of for, you know, those first several years. Eventually, they realized that the senior executives wanted more access to their children who were a 2-hour drive away, and they would only come down to see us for a short time on Saturday night, Sunday morning before they went back to work. So we'd see our parents for like an hour or two a week. And then we would be working and studying, and then they would be doing the same thing up, you know, where they lived in Gilman Hot Springs. So they created kind of a children's ranch. It was sort of like a boarding school. It was an old nun convent that was on the other side of an Indian reservation, the Subobian Indian reservation, and just outside of Hemet and San Jacinto. And they moved us up there, and we were the workforce to renovate these old buildings. They were very old, dilapidated buildings. And I was one of the first aid kids because by the time this happened, I'd spent about 3 years pretty much separated from my mother. And then by the time I was 12, 13 years old, we were then moved up there, which was about a 20-minute drive from their international base.
It's like child labor.
Oh, this is
what is child
I spent
labor?
It was 100% child labor. So we were removing asbestos from buildings, burying it out, in locations on the property, and being used to renovate this school.
From there, it was a hop, skip, and a jump to the Sea Org that Mike had mentioned earlier.
My mother joined that Sea organization when I was 10 years old, after my parents got divorced. And she brought me out into this thing, and I grew up in it. And it is really... like, they do not have contact with the rest of the world the way anyone else does. They don't have cell phones. They don't watch the news. They don't have access to normal information. They work 24/7. I mean, they stop to sleep, but literally it's 16-hour days every day. There's not vacations. They're supposed to get time off, but normally that does not happen. They try to control them and get them for cheap labor, and they pay them $50 a week. It's literally indentured servitude that is occurring right in the middle of LA County.
As Mike became a teen, he says he started yearning for another life. His mum had brought him here, but he was still aware he had a dad out there somewhere, and he did sense that there was more to this world that he wanted to experience. By the time he was 15, he knew he wanted to leave. Not by escaping, but by just telling the church he wanted to go. Thing is, they don't make it that easy to just leave.
I tried to leave on their terms, which means go back and go through their process, which includes a lot of the interrogations on their little machine called an e-meter. It was 18 months of interrogations, separated from the other kids, heavy manual labor, didn't have access to my father. It was very similar to probably what it would be like to be a POW. And I was able to continue to say I wanted to leave. And after about 18 months, I was kind of like, the clock was running out on being a kid. And I was at this point 17, going to be turning 18 soon, with no more education than I had before. And after a lot of demands and stress and interrogations, I agreed to stay.
Mike resigned himself to staying, doing a variety of jobs at the organization, at one point helping assemble the very same e-meters that we used during his so-called interrogations. Other things kept him there too: friendships, relationships. He ended up getting married when he was 18 to someone a year and a half younger than him.
It's pretty young. I can tell you right now, if one of my daughters told me she wanted to get married to some kid and he was 18 and she was 16, I would lose my shit. But that was my life back then. I can tell you that military service, deploying to Iraq and Afghanistan over the course of the last 21 years after I escaped, is way better than living in Scientology for literally a day. It was horrible there. She got pregnant twice. Both times were forced to have abortions because they are unwilling for children to exist in the organization, because that would be a distraction and it would pull the mother away from work.
To me, at least, Scientology sometimes seems a bit like a joke almost. I still think of that South Park episode I watched about Xenu back when I was a teenager. So hearing this kind of stuff from Mike, someone who is there on the inside, it's jarring. Back then, his wife, barely 17, wasn't having a great time in Scientology either. He says at the time, both of them were just too scared to talk to each other about it, about how they really felt.
And because if you know about it and you get interrogated, if you don't say something, you're going to get in trouble. They're going to separate you. So it's best that no one talks.
But one day she had a particularly bad day, and she told Mike and said that she wanted to leave. But the thing is, she had family in there, too many links, and she couldn't. And as hard as it was, that's when Mike knew he had to escape.
She said, if we leave, they're just going to get me back in, and I'm going to end up wanting to stay because of my family, and we're going to get divorced. When she told me that, something broke inside of me.
He hatched a plan to leave. It happened quickly.
I was one of the few people on their base up there that was able to get access to the outside world because I did manufacturing. I was out for a print job. I was, manufacturing some of their books and CDs and things, and I was going to one of the printers, and almost on a whim, one day I decided I can't take it anymore. I've got to go. I had nothing more than a joint credit card that we had with probably a $500 credit limit, and my Oakley sunglasses, and just not much else. And I went to Ontario Airport in California and got on a one-way flight to Denver to hopefully reconnect with my father, and left without even talking to him.
He did reconnect with his dad, but that's a whole other story. Mike was out. He was 27 years old. He'd been in Scientology for 20 years, but he was finally free. When you got on that plane, you left, did you hear from Scientology again, or were you one of the cases where they just let you go?
They tried to get me to come back, but they did not pursue me. I was somebody that they trusted as one of their, almost like when they would deputize people in their security force to go and look for people that did depart and blow without authorization. I was part of those recovery teams.
Huh.
So I was on the bad end of this stuff for multiple years before. And they knew that I knew how to take care of this stuff, and they kind of just let me go.
That's not to say there weren't sacrifices at the time. The church have their own kind of revenge, and I'm reminded why it's so hard to leave.
And they were like, hey, we're going to basically, they had locked down, apparently, now that some people have gotten out. At that time, they locked down my mother and my ex-wife, interrogated them for many weeks. They were then both required to write letters to me saying that they were going to disconnect from me if I didn't return. I didn't return. They then disconnected from me, and I got divorce papers in the mail, actually, when I was in basic training.
Chapter 5. What the fuck is up with Scientology? Since he left, Mike has kept an eye on Scientology. He's vocal about it. And so I thought he'd be a good person to sort of lay out what's going on with this cult, back when it formed, through to today.
Scientology would have us believe that there's millions of Scientologists. There's not. It's in the tens of thousands at most, and most of them are second and third generation and just born into it at this point. They're a declining movement, and it's continuing to shrink. There's certain things that are keeping them alive, but really they are most represented both in the LA area, which is probably the largest population of Scientologists in the world, and then in Clearwater, Florida, where they have their largest base for their upper level services. Other than that, you have probably less than 100 Scientology organizations across the United States, and most of them are small and failing. And the way that they still exist in simplicity is because they were given tax exemption by the IRS, and that's the only reason why they exist.
Mike tells me it all basically started with Dianetics, science fiction writer L. Ron Hubbard's glorified self-help book that came out in 1950. Hubbard tried to present it to the American Psychiatric Institute, but was laughed out of the room. They wanted nothing to do with it. Following that, he decided that he was going to create Scientology, working in spirituality and past lives to the broad self-help vibe. And he took self-help book to fully fledged religion.
He applied for tax exempt status just because there's so many benefits behind it. You're able to, really avoid paying for a tremendous amount of things that other organizations have to pay for. He was enriching himself in the 60s, so they lost tax exemption in 67. In 1989, the U.S. Supreme Court actually had a ruling. There was a case that was Hernandez versus the commissioner, where they ruled that Scientology is not qualify for tax exempt status strictly because all of their services are quid pro quo. You have to pay for everything you do there. Any other religion, there's free services. And the reason why religions have tax exemption is strictly and only because they provide a service to the population that would otherwise be a burden on the government. And that's why you get things like tax exemption for, for soup kitchens, for charities. That's because they're taking burden off of the government. So the Supreme Court said, hey, they don't qualify for it. So they sued the shit out of the IRS down to individual IRS agents for years. And this was a battle that was going on, being waged, a very, very litigious battle that went on until 1993, where the IRS Commissioner Fred Goldberg gave them their tax exempt status kind of on his way out the door, just to make all the legal noise go away. So in our country, as ridiculous as this sounds, and it sounds ridiculous to me as a U.S. service member who has, agreed to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, our First Amendment rights come from recognition of something as a religion, and the metric to do that is the Internal Revenue Service.
I told Mike about some of the stuff that I'd encountered so far. My friend Celine being approached by a woman who refused to say she was a Scientologist.
Hello, my darling Celine.
And the Museum of Psychology also refusing to say they were a Scientology thing, the big blue building locking me out. I wondered if Scientology felt the walls were moving in somehow.
There's also a growing protest culture with people outside of these organizations saying, hey, it's a cult, stay out of it, especially in the LA area. They've been shut down a lot of times. And that's because in its core, Scientology isn't even honest with the entry-level Scientologist in terms of what its belief system is consisting of at the highest levels, and what the actual investment is going to be, both personally, familially, and just economically. Long-term, it's going to completely absorb you. So at this lowest level, they're actually targeting, disadvantaged populations, immigrants, people from third world countries that don't have a better life, and actually trafficking them into work in their organizations in order to give them an opportunity that they think is amazing, and then indoctrinate them to be part of the cult.
Stay tuned for more Flightless Bird. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Support for Flightless Bird comes from Spot and Tango. Ever since we started this podcast, Rob, I have wanted to advertise some kind of pet food because I love pets. This is also weirdly the first time in my life I haven't had a pet, so I always come around to your house and love scratching your little dog on the head.
Yeah, I did notice when you did this ad by yourself, you called Huxley a he. So
no.
Huxley is
really?
A she. Huxley's a she.
I'm so sorry, Huxley.
And we treat Huxley almost as another child, which led us to switch to Spot and Tango's Unkibble, which has been a total upgrade for Huxley. She eats it up like it's her favorite thing in the world.
Unkibble is made with 100% whole, fresh ingredients, like real USDA meats, fruits, and veggies, but it's 40% less expensive than frozen food. Plus, there's no more guessing how much to feed your dog. Spot and Tango creates a custom plan based on your dog's age, weight, breed, and activity level. And they create a pre-measured scoop so you get it right every single time.
Yeah, Huxley's a little Shih Tzu, so she has a lot of energy. She's still pretty young. And since switching to Spot and Tango, we've seen she's been much more excited for her meals. We've actually had to get her a device that makes her eat it slower because she wants to gobble it up so fast.
So upgrade your pet's bowl with Spot and Tango Unkibble. For a limited time, go to spotandtango.com/bird and use code BIRD to get 50% off your first order. That's spotandtango.com/bird, code BIRD to get 50% off your first order. spotandtango.com/bird, code BIRD.
Hank's the family fixer, always with his tool belt. But living with prostate cancer, he needed help. He asked his doctor about Xtandi and enzalutamide. Xtandi 40 milligram tablets treats men with prostate cancer that has spread to other parts of the body and responds to a medical or surgical treatment to lower testosterone. Xtandi may cause serious side effects: seizure, a brain condition called PRESS, allergic reactions, heart disease that can lead to death, falls and bone fractures, swallowing problems, or choking that can lead to death. Stop Xtandi and get medical help at once if your face, tongue, lip, or throat start swelling. Tell your doctor at once if you faint, have a seizure, quickly worsening headache, decreased alertness, confusion, vision problems, chest pain or discomfort, or shortness of breath. Xtandi can cause harm to an unborn baby or miscarriage. Use birth control during and 3 months after Xtandi. Common side effects include muscle and joint pain, feeling unusually tired, hot flashes, constipation, less appetite, diarrhea, high blood pressure, bleeding, falls, fractures, and headache. Talk to your doctor and visit Xtandi.com.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, With the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
As I talked to Mike, I realized there's probably a part 2 of this episode and a part 3. But this isn't a Scientology podcast. But before I did let him go, I wanted to get his take on one other thing, on Shelley Miscavige. After L. Ron Hubbard died, David Miscavige became the leader of Scientology. But his wife Shelley hasn't been seen in years. And there's this theory that she's essentially been disappeared. I figure Mike may have some theories on what's going on.
So it's a good question, and it's important to ask where she is, but I think that there has been a lot of, obviously, media attention around Shelley Miscavige. But really what happened is she was her husband's assistant for many, many years. And the only reason why she would be seen with her husband is she was working directly for him. So it's not unusual in Scientology and the Sea organization that you might be at a different base than your spouse and you might not see them, or you might not be seen by the public. For Shelley specifically, there have been high-level executives that came out and specifically said, hey, she pissed off Dave really bad. He assigned her to another base. I believe she's up in Twin Peaks, California, and she's at their secretive base that is actually responsible for doing a lot of their archival projects. They do similar to the Mormon religion where they archive everything so that and imagine this, if you were, in a post-apocalyptic era, the only thing that they could find was the Mormon vault and Scientology vault with all of Hubbard's teachings. Like, they're making them literally like atom bomb proof with all of his rambling writings inside of them so that they could exist in an age that, like, man ceased to exist.
Imagine that. The nukes go off, and all we have left are the teachings of those two religions. Nothing remaining but Mormons, Scientologists, and cockroaches. What a world. Something I'm curious about in putting this episode together. There's always a lot of talk about being sued by the Church of Scientology. And I'm curious what your take of, A, you being sued for saying outspoken things, which would be potentially defamatory against the church, and also me saying things in this episode. How is Scientology in suing these days?
Zero risk. This is why. Scientology right now has a bunch of protections that it makes all of their members sign, which are basically arbitration agreements that say if you have a beef with us for civil cases, you cannot sue us. It has to go to Scientology's internal arbitration, which is a total kangaroo court and completely made up. It doesn't exist, but because they are signed and that they're a religion, the courts can't really analyze these arbitration agreements. So nothing happens from the civil perspective on lawsuits. And if you got sued, that would be a civil suit against you. As soon as Scientology tried to sue somebody, they did this in one of their former executives that started speaking out. She started telling the truth. This was a lady named Debbie Cook. She started basically giving testimony, and it opens up Scientology discovery in both directions, both by the defense and the prosecution. They cannot stand up to that. So the biggest gift you could possibly have, David, is if Scientology sued you, because then you could just get a defense attorney that would ask Scientology questions with the person that they were suing her. They ended up settling with her just to get her to shut up after they sued her. So Scientology hasn't actually sued anybody in years. They try to pretend like they're big and bad. They hire private investigators. They harass people. They've harassed us. I couldn't care less. I'll film them. I'll put them on the internet. If any show is concerned about being sued by Scientology, like Scientology, to win that, they would actually have to prove that what you're saying is false. And there's just an ever-growing mountain of evidence that would put them 100% out of business if they even tried it.
Mike is now married to a woman who's never been in a cult. They have 3 girls, Ariella, and twins, Emmalyn and Gracelyn. Mike says he's proud that he was able to turn his entire life around. From and I quote, a total hell on earth as an uneducated, indentured servant in a UFO cult, to 2 decades in the military with a family and a boring old mortgage. His final message about Scientology, it's really simple. And after his own experience in it, incredibly measured.
So I just want people that are getting involved in Scientology to know, educate yourself. If you want to be involved in something that is a little bit self-help guru, a little bit new age spirituality, kind of some Freudian talk therapy, a little alien space cult, put a little pinch of Buddhism in there, wrap it up in some good old-fashioned communism, and then sell it to you in the most capitalistic way possible, just know that there's some side effects. It's highly addictive. It'll make you feel euphoric a little bit, but you're going to have social isolation, family disconnection, loss of ability to think for yourself, personal time's gone, financial hardship, cognitive dissonance, sunken cost fallacy, depression. So those are your side effects may include. I'm just saying, like, it's a big investment. If you're man enough, go ahead and hit it up.
As he's talking, I just keep thinking about Celine and all the other people out there right now brushing up against this so-called religion. People who have no idea what's waiting for them just around the corner.
Hello, my darling Celine. Call me. Bye. Have a wonderful day and wonderful thinking. We will do beautiful things together. Bye, Celine.
Yeah, I think that voicemail that she left on Celine's phone was just such a perfect encapsulation of everything. We have got someone who just is so caring, seemingly caring, trying to get you in, not saying what it actually is at all.
It seems so predatory too, of like just preying on vulnerable people
completely
that are lost.
That's what Mike said, and that's something I hadn't thought about. Like, they are preying on like new immigrants, people looking for community, people looking for a place to be. And of course, like, other religions do this as well, right? Try and get people in. But I think the thing, and you know, I've been thinking about what we were talking about right at the beginning about like just Scientology versus other religions. And I think the thing that Scientology does so in a much more intense way, you know, Christians like 10% tithing, there's pressure on that. Scientology is just so much money. Like $50,000 for the guy I met who like joined for a couple of years.
Well, and just the bait and switch of it all, I think, is the other piece of it. It's like Christianity's leading with like Jesus is our savior.
Everything's on the table.
Yeah.
They're not, you don't walk into a church, a Baptist church or a Catholic church.
And the more you pay, the more you unlock and the more you learn because you're giving.
Like, here's
money.
a Bible. Here's the whole sort of thing.
Yeah.
Other odd beliefs might come up within specific churches, but they're also not hiding that they're Baptists. They're not hiding that they're Catholics, you know? I mean, like, that is particularly wild to me. And also, obviously, what Mike was talking about, and something I forget about, is just how damaging it is. Like, the systems they have in place to isolate you from your family, and to, you know, what they do to kids in the organization, and the workload they put on them. It's insanity, and it's incredible that it is the IRS is on board with this place at the moment. Like,
just
that
because they were annoyed by them. It's we've taken a real 180 on this show of pushing the Catholic religion.
Since the new Pope, right? We're not belittling. We're championing the Catholics now.
The litigious nature of them reminded me a lot of Mr. Oregon and what you had to deal with, of just like, let's bury lawsuits.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's something I feel like, Mr. Organ and Tickled were both involved people that were just tried to make you go away by threatening you and using the court system.
Just knew the system, and how, like, even the system knew, like, oh, this is really annoying, and not the actual point of this.
No, but
we have to do it.
100%. Like, it's just a total abuse of the legal system. And I think Scientology historically has done a lot of that. They have backed away a lot from that now, just because I think there's so much information out about them, and the stuff they want to hide, it's not worth bringing into the public court system, you know, where those things can be revealed to the public.
Yeah, that was interesting.
The other thing that I found kind of fascinating is just they are a dying organization.
Yeah.
Like, I think here in LA, they're so majestic. That building, the Celebrity Center.
The production studio has the like glowing logo on the antenna that, like, at night you can see that, and it's just got this like blue glow.
It looks, I mean, God, it looks like a cult, doesn't it?
Yeah, that logo looks like a cult.
No, it really does. Not helping them.
Yeah.
But like the outside appearance, and same in New Zealand, they bought this, it used to be a beautiful old art school. It's now like just empty, but has a Scientology logo on it. It presents as being the successful thing, but membership is dropping. Fortunately, knowledge is spreading, and they're losing new members with money.
I do remember the Super Bowl before last. They had a Super Bowl commercial. I think the last 2 years
they did.
For Scientology, which seemed crazy. I remember texting friends back home because I was like, this can't be nationwide that they're playing this. Like this has only got to be local to LA.
And it was everywhere.
It was everywhere.
Which is a lot of money they're pouring.
Yeah.
And also I'd love to see the stats of how many new signups they get, because it's a different world to what it was 20 years ago. Like we've seen the South Park episode. Like if you have the internet, pretty quickly you know what's up. And that's the other thing with the guy that I met who had joined up for a few years, had lost $50,000. You know, the thing that pushed him out was they wanted money from his girlfriend. And that's kind of where he went like, oh no, this feels bad. He goes home and watches Going Clear. I would have just loved to have been in the room with him as he's watching that, and just like the scales falling off and just going, oh, holy shit, this was as crazy as I was suspecting.
Well, I would imagine there's like a level of denial when that came out, because clearly he knew what that doc was prior to it.
Yeah, it was everywhere.
And then made the decision not to watch it.
It's shame, right? Because it's like people that get dragged into a scam, to acknowledge that it's incorrect, to acknowledge that you've been duped for years and have put money in, right? So you put like walls up.
But a part of him had to have known that was happening and didn't want to admit it.
Yeah, so you just do a bit of cognitive dissonance and carry on. And the other thing with Scientology as well, like there are elements of like Dianetics, which ages ago I flicked through and read. It's not completely batshit. Like it is some like simple aspects of therapy of like going through traumatic things and refocusing how you react to those things. It's not insane.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's clearly helped people from that aspect.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone, when they're shitting on Scientology, are necessarily shitting on those beliefs. It's like
100%.
It's the organization, and then it's the Xenu space alien stuff.
Yeah, and them like hoovering your money away.
Yeah.
And speaking to that, so I went to that psychiatric, the Museum of Psychiatry, which is basically like, how do I even explain it? It's like you walk through, it's like through a museum, and the whole messaging is that drugs, any kind of medication is terrible. Like there's a list of people that have like died, and it's like, these are the celebrities that were medicated. This is why they've died. It's just trying to terrify you.
Any medication though?
Any meds that will help you psychologically. So I take ADHD meds. That's to them is like
poison.
Terrible. That's like poison, and I should be doing Dianetics and auditing instead of medication. You know, but, and I wonder if this shit, like this is the stuff that Mike was helping manufacture when he escaped. So, because I was just trying to be a curious member of the public with a podcast, I spent $25 there and got this pack, this media pack. So I'm going to donate the same amount to like
to the Catholic Church,
a number of organizations that are not, including, I'm going to give some money to like ADHD research or something. But this is some of the stuff.
This looks like a horror movie.
You're like, what's your reaction?
These look like horror movies.
Yeah, The Hidden Enemy.
Mood stabilizers.
Look at this.
Psychostimulants.
They're not subtle. This is a graveyard with sort of blood being spilled, and the headline, Psychiatry and Industry of Death. And this is just, I mean, beautifully presented. You open this, you got a pamphlet, you've got information, you've got a DVD if you've still got a DVD player.
I wouldn't go as far as to say beautifully presented.
Beautiful is the wrong word. Yeah. But it's basically...
There's a rolled up $100 bill with blood on it.
Yeah. And speaking of, you know, Tom Cruise not speaking out about this stuff, there's an incredible interview with him back in the day where he was tearing into someone else for daring to take medication for their psychological problems. And he was kind of publicly tearing them apart on a talk show.
Anti-anxiety drugs.
I mean, and this is where I start getting pissed off, because it's like, no, medication it is helping a lot of people. This whole organization is telling you, no, get off your meds, come to us. That's just outright dangerous.
Yeah. Does it say the word? I don't see the word Scientology anywhere in this.
Rob, you will not find it in there.
The Citizens Commission on Human Rights with a logo that looks like very government.
No, that's the most wild example of not saying what you are, pretending to be another thing.
Well, this is such like scare tactic.
Oh yeah,
approach.
I mean, imagine like this city, like LA is known for being like pretty messed up. People come here to try and succeed. Imagine being like someone stumbling in there who is on meds and they come across this thing and suddenly they're off meds. They're in the Church of Scientology. All their money is being filtered into this thing. Like, but again, like you look at this, it looks like a parody or a joke.
Yeah.
But it's also like incredibly dangerous and horrific. I think that's the funny thing about Scientology. It's one of the most awful things, but it's also there's an element that's very funny.
Yeah.
Because like it is like a parody. It's like a Nathan Fielder sketch.
Yeah.
Like walking into the Museum of Psychiatry felt like Nathan Fielder, The Rehearsal Season 3 or something. But again, look, I reached out to the church. I listened to the security guard. I emailed their media team. I said, I've got a podcast called Flightless Bird. It's about American culture. If you want to come on the show, I will talk to you.
Yeah.
So by all means, get in touch. I gave you the opportunity. Email flightlessbirdchat@gmail.com. Come on board.
Or text David at...
No. And to be clear, yeah, when I signed in with my details, they didn't get my address. They didn't get my number. I did give them my email address because genuinely I want to hear from them. So far, crickets. If anything happens to me in the between now and next week, you know where to look.
We need to check the ICE facilities. We need to check the Scientology Center.
There's a few. I'm increasing.
You're getting put on a few lists.
More and more enemies. I also, as I walk past the security cameras, I really eyeballed them outside. They've very much got my face. Because also part of me is like, come at me. Like, start chasing me around. I'll get a part 2 of the episode, you know? Okay. Feedback. We still have a lot of feedback coming in about Topps trading cards.
Topps trading cards.
It was a bit like emo, where it really hit sort of some sort of main line, like running throughout America.
I'm still getting texts from people about the emo episode. Of people that are listening to it.
Nuts. Yeah. And no, it connected. I think it tapped into nostalgia and just passion so well. So many emos listening to this show.
Apparently.
Pamela wrote in to flightlessbirdchat@gmail.com. Listen to Topps Trading Cards, and you mentioned the Garbage Pail Kids. It reminded me of my Wacky Packages stickers. Have you heard of Wacky Packages?
No, I don't think so.
So she sent me a Wikipedia listing. At the height of their popularity from 73 to 75, Wacky Packages were the best-selling Topps product, even more popular than the baseball cards. And they were by far the most sold trading card items in the US. And they're basically little stickers of like takes on like Spam and like American products like ketchup. Like they're just like little cute stickers riffing on Americana. So anyway, that's was another big Topps thing. Kyle wrote in about 6 weeks ago. I went down a YouTube rabbit hole on Pokemon cards. So we're going to do a Pokemon episode. Yeah. A friend of mine, I found his brother has just gotten into trading them in a big way.
Calvin had a little phase of Pokemon cards.
Hey. In the schoolyard, like trading them? Or?
Yeah, it's also crazy how fast those fads it seemed to go in and out. Like it was Bakugan to Pokemon to Beyblades.
Whenever I am buying like friends' kids things for their birthday, I'm always like a month off trend.
Yeah,
so I think they're going to be excited. I give it to them. They could not be more bored. It's like you're giving me Sonic.
Yeah,
like. Get out of town, you idiot.
That's what happens when my family, they ask for Christmas lists for the boys, but like months out. And I'm just like, they're into this now, but I can guarantee they will not be into this in December.
You want to buy a present for an American kid or any kid, you buy it the day before.
Yeah.
That's what you do. So Kyle went on, born in 89. And when these initially came out, they consumed my childhood, my friendship circles. I ended up going to a local card shop and buying a couple of packs. And the wondery and childlike joy of opening those packs brought me unbelievable joy. Needless to say, I'm now hooked on Pokemon cards again. I'm chasing down that feeling every weekend. They sound like a drug addict who's relapsed. I love it. The community has been fun and welcoming. I feel like now this is incredible. I feel like I'm going through something right now and want to connect to my childhood. I just bought the same mountain bike I had when I was 13 and the same MP3 player I had when I was 15. And I'm going to bike around my neighborhood with my Pokemon cards and listen to all my old emo music. I suggest everyone chase that childlike wondery and joy.
I did almost the same thing. When Calvin got his first bike, I went and bought a bike.
That was like one you had when you were a teen or a kid?
It was one that I wanted as a kid.
I love this.
Could get now.
I've done the same thing. 2 years ago, went onto eBay. I bought the Lego set that I could never get as a kid.
Yeah.
And I felt I did get a tap of wonder.
I did. I rode it like twice and it's in our shed. But it had like the pegs on the back too that my mom would not let us have because it was too dangerous to have someone on the back.
Oh my God. Did you wear a helmet?
Natalie did make me get a helmet. Yes.
Yeah, respect. Did you have her on the back?
No. I put Calvin on the back.
That must be cool, like have like riding with your kid. I like that.
Yeah.
The end of Kyle's message takes a dark turn.
Uh-oh.
I own a small property maintenance company. We're always running leaf blowers, and I find your annoyance very amusing. If you want to chat about why we use them and the benefits, please let me know. Kyle, I will never be contacting you. There are no benefits to leaf blowers.
We were almost going to have great talent for the Pokemon episode, but then he brought up leaf blowers.
I know, yeah. It's like, get out of town. Belinda wrote in, had friends over a few weeks ago who had never heard of I can never say this, the Menendez brothers.
The Menendez brothers.
Menendez brothers. But they'd recently been deep diving into the new documentary and the Ryan Murphy series. They mentioned the Mark Jackson trading card with the brothers sitting courtside. My husband disappeared and came back with 3 albums and a shoebox full of basketball cards. We've been together 25 years and I never even knew these existed. They've apparently moved house with us multiple times and have just been kept in a cupboard in his office. Turns out he had the Menendez card. We had a number of listeners, including Mike, send us photos of their cards. Wow. So look in the back there, front courtside.
Mark Jackson, I remember this guy. Yeah, there they are.
So these were Hoops cards, right? This was like an alternate to Topps.
Yeah.
There they are.
Speaking of other brands, I forgot maybe 5 years ago, I bought a box of Skybox trading cards.
Yeah. My brother in New Zealand, Rob, he messaged me. He collected Hoops cards and he's kept them all. Wild that we keep all the stuff in boxes. We're all hiding stuff. They 25 years married, that couple. She'd never seen these cards.
Well, so Topps.
Uh-oh. Oh, God.
Here. This is for you.
Okay. Wow.
Fuck
off. You got this?
It's not the full collection. I don't think.
So Rob texted me about this about a week ago. This is a sealed season 2 collector set of X-Files cards. Not only like each wrapped thing will be sealed, but the whole box is sealed.
Whole box is sealed.
Rob.
I would imagine maybe the whole complete set is not in there. Because I did see listings for the complete set and it was very expensive.
Rob, genuinely, this is fucking insane.
But it'll start getting you towards second season.
This is insane. This is insane. Again, it's Wondery. It's like this cover art and stuff.
Yeah.
It takes you directly back to that time. You're the best.
Just sitting on the end of the bed, looking through.
No, it'll be in the bedroom. Oh my God, it's going to be showing off.
Get another binder.
The question will be whether when I open this and how that's going to what time I do that.
Yeah. So when you open them, are you going to put them in order?
Absolutely. Oh no, I will.
So the cards are numbered.
Yeah, I will go through each pack and I will see what I have, what I'm missing.
You'll sort them.
I'll sort them.
Do you know how many are in a collection? Or
I don't recall with these ones. I feel it's about around 100. It's like a pretty decent number.
All right. I mean, there's 100 cards in there, I think.
This is a bit like I am clean and you're just giving me a little bit of cocaine.
You're relapsing a little bit.
You're the best. Thank you. Sharon emailed in. Oriented, not orientated. I replied, I said, Sharon, never do this again. There's a certain actually, Sharon. We always love corrections. I'm curious how you feel about this feedback in general. I love feedback that is a fact check, like a correction, because I'm learning. When I get feedback from someone about something I've said incorrectly or enunciated incorrectly, I don't know why I feel so angry. I feel rage, mainly, I think partly because I've messed up and I feel dumb.
Yeah.
But also there's part of me that's like, we've done like 130 episodes. Like, where were you giving feedback about something important?
I agree. Is when it's feedback about like semantics of like, actually, this small little way that you said this is actually this. Which sometimes I will say is interesting.
Sometimes, but most of the time. I also I want to say and I think about this when I get the impulse to give feedback to podcasts I listen to. It's like, if you get anyone talking for hours on end, they're going to you're going to mess up. You're going to say some dumb shit. I feel I'm roasting Sharon way too much. You meant well
this was
and everything.
And it's because of our own insecurities. But there was one from the Topps trading cards episode that I saw about. And as I said it in the episode, I knew, but I was like, this isn't worth correcting.
What did you say?
I said Jackie Robinson was the first black baseball player.
Yeah.
He was the first black professional baseball player for the MLB.
Oh my God.
I knew that there were other athletes that played the sport before him.
It's funny, isn't it? And also, part of me is I love that someone is so passionate.
Yeah.
I love that they care so much that they want to give the feedback. But also on some level, I'm like, I don't care. The other thing about it is just what is behind that as well. And some people just trying to prove some other point that they think about what you think or don't think. It's so loaded.
Yeah.
Anyway, and that's me getting off my soapbox for the week.
But we love feedback and almost all of it.
Oh no, we do. And it's all done with love. And Sharon and everyone else, you're all good. A lot of feedback about the dead deer. A lot of people truly hated the fact of posting roadkill on an Instagram feed. Fair enough. Emmy wrote in and said, I'm a farmer in rural Western MA. What is MA? Massachusetts. Who just listened while driving a tractor. I love that people are listening to this episode while driving a tractor. That is incredible. I agree with what you're saying about Americans not wanting to think about death too much. Roadkill is a huge issue in this country. And I highly recommend the road ecology episode of the podcast Ologies if you're interested in learning more. I started counting roadkill after that episode and it was very eye-opening because it's something that most of us have learned to ignore as we pass it by.
Unless you listen to our possums episode and now you go and check the pouch of roadkill possums.
Any dead adult possum you see, check the pouch. Could be babies in there. Take them to a possum rescue. How do you find the possum rescue?
Google it.
Google it. The disconnect between people and death is something I think about a lot as a farmer. Some of the people upset about your post might be vegans who think of themselves as absolved or above it all. However, as a vegetable farmer, vegetables aren't really vegan. Lots of animal death involved in vegetable production comes from pest control, habitat destruction, disruption of food chains, and water pollution. I work on a small organic farm, and even organic farmers use organically approved pesticides which impact nearby ecosystems. The best we can do is limit our negative impact on wildlife, but nobody in modern society is above it, so therefore we must face it and think about our own contributions. I just really liked Emmy's thoughts on that.
Yeah.
And on that same topic, Lindsay wrote in, I live in New Mexico where there are tons of people who hunt regularly, including my family and friends. Sometimes my husband and his friends will get a call from our local police or game warden saying a deer has been hit by a car to come and harvest the meat if they'd like. Another interesting related story, my husband saw a car hit an elk and left the elk on the road. He called the game warden to inform them and they allowed him to harvest the meat from the elk. Also, as a note, none of these people would call themselves urban harvesters, but they are happy not to let an animal go to waste if it's very freshly dead. Finally, and I think this will appeal to you, Colby, I totally get the coveting of your iPod Classic, Rob. In my opinion, I had the best taste in music of anyone around me, and my iPod was proof. I was recently cleaning out that bin of RCA, coax, Cat5, and other archaic cables that I've kept for no reason for decades, and I found my iPod Classic. Luckily, there's a charging station stowed alongside it. I'm happy to report that it can still hold a charge and is connected to the auxiliary in my car right now. I found one of those cables as well. No more satellite for me. My 90s alt rock iPod will never be silenced. And that just made me think, I wish I had kept my iPod. I don't know where it is. I probably threw it out at some point.
I've bought one recent in the last like 3-4 years. I've
no way.
Bought a refurbished one.
It's up and running?
No, I didn't set it up. It's hard because you got to get like iTunes then back, and I've got.
Right.
I did have my music all on external hard drive.
Yeah.
That from when I would get a new computer, I'd have to then update the iPod. I think the thing for me, I had like my catalog, but then I had a lot of just like demos and stuff from bands before they finished records.
I mean, that's amazing.
So I
to
had
have.
like cool versions of these songs before they were
That's
released.
sitting on the hard drive or the iPod?
Both.
Oh man, you've got to get that up and running.
Yeah.
That's amazing to have.
Yeah. But then it's like I then have to, any new music I want to listen to, which is becoming less and less attractive to me. But I have to then find a digital version to then bring into my iTunes.
I kind of feel like this harbors back to the Blockbuster episode where it's like the joy of physical media, like having it on a place that doesn't get lost to time.
Yeah.
You know, is like there is something to say for that, because hard drives and old technologies do just eventually become redundant. Like you can't charge it, like hard drives die.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I don't know what we do about all this. I also think of like photos.
Just bitch and moan about it.
Just bitch and moan. Like photos, you know, like back in the day you would decide what you wanted. You'd have an album of it, like a physical album. I have, let me just check how many photos I have on this thing right now.
I know. I have a fantasy of like at some point doing like a nice scrapbook photo book.
You and me
like,
both.
Yeah.
I have 78,636 photos on here.
Yeah.
Stuff, some of it amazing, some of it not. I'm not going to look at a bunch of this stuff again. If my cloud dies or I lose passwords, it's all going. And that is so like on a fundamental level of me, which loves everything organized, like these Topps cards will be in an album. If I think about that cloud of photos, I feel anxious.
I have 30,000 photos. I will say, like, I will go back and reference dates.
That's smart.
And I can be like, oh, when this happened at this time at this year. And I don't know if that's having a kid.
Yeah.
Makes that more of a thing.
Yeah, wanting to get those things defined. Having a kid is like having a really good calendar, right? It's like they're one now, they're two, they're three, like this happened then.
But your phone library is so chaotic that, and you're not like deleting the bad ones. And it's not like, here's the highlight of the 7 things from that experience that I want to keep and put in a photo book.
There's the added chaos, and I know iPhone separated out, but when you get into screenshots, like a lot of that will just be screenshots of junk. It makes me anxious.
Yeah, let's go through 10 years of photos where you're taking hundreds a month.
One thing I would like AI to do, not a big fan of AI because I'm an old man, but one thing I would love if it could come and just give me a stress-free, organized thing by like event and person and era of my life, I will welcome it.
Google does that because I actually use Google Photos instead of the built-in Apple one.
Okay, and you recommend that?
Yeah.
For who wants to be more organized.
I like it because I was Android before I was iPhone, so I had photos on there already.
Yeah, right.
But they do cool little like, here's this face and here's a little slideshow of images of this person.
Yeah, okay, cool. I like that feeling of order that it brings.
Yeah.
All this freaking device does is give me like, I'll be having a nice day, and then it's like, no, here's a horrific memory. Have this album of someone you haven't thought about in 10 years with like an emotive score. And it's like, fuck you for doing that to me. The worst. Okay. If you have feedback, as always, flightlessbirdchat@gmail.com. If you are in Denver or Chicago and you have some amazing knowledge about something local you'd like us to look into, flightlessbirdchat@gmail.com. Tickets for those live shows on sale at flightlessbirdpod.com.
July 3rd in Denver, July 10th in Chicago.
I can't wait to get a tour of Chicago from you. I've never been. I feel like you're going to be the best tour guide a boy could have.
I'm already jotting down the list of things that we need to do.
I'm going to bring these with me.
And the American Girl dolls.
All right. See you next week.